Finally, an answer to the age-old question, which comes first, the chicken or the egg roll? Easy. Just eat whichever one's closest. The Sensation Salad and Filet Sandwich Meal are back at Zaxby's. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, crispy wontons, Asian slaw, and citrus vinaigrette. And each comes with its very own egg roll for a limited time only at Zaxby's. Order ahead, drive-thru, or get it delivered.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good. The Zax sauce, it's indescribably good, folks. Put your chicken in it. It will make your life better. I can almost guarantee you that. Warchant.com, it's your ultimate Seminole sports source. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 for 30 free days of access. Corey Clark's here. I'm Aslan. You know that already. Hit the thumbs up button if you're listening to us on YouTube. Maybe even leave us a nice little 5-star review on iTunes. And if you don't have a 5-star review, don't even bother. 4, whatever. Just don't. By the way, there's somebody out there, I think I already mentioned one time, Corey, that literally left us a 1-star review, I think, because I had put the wrong date on a show. They're just like, the date's wrong on this show. Figure it out. Like, wow, man.
Hey, you got a standard, though, right? We're allowed to criticize football players and quarterbacks.
Right.
They're allowed to criticize show hosts. The weather down there not great, huh? I feel like Texas toast, like a warm batch of Texas toast, would be perfect for a rainy day, which is all Tallahassee has had lately.
Sop it up with some of that Zax sauce. Sop up the Zax sauce with the Texas toast.
Would you say the least rainy day of like the last 5 was the day that they had the 2 weather delays during a college football game?
You're never going to let it go, are you?
I feel like that was the best day. Look, the second one that rolled through, I know this isn't how we wanted to start the show, but I don't care. I'll talk about it. I remember going to games in the 80s where it was a deluge, and they didn't postpone the game or delay the game. You just played through it. That was what football was. But now if there's weather even in the area, it's like get them off the field. Get them off the field. You don't see those games anymore of our childhoods where it was just torrential rain pours. Like for old timers, the '86 Florida game comes immediately to mind. It was like 2003 Miami, but much, much worse, and at night. And then like the Pitt games when Pitt came with Dan Marino, they were maybe '82 wasn't the Dan Marino, but they were just absolute monsoons, and they would play through them. Now, if there's a storm coming, get off the field. I thought rainstorms were a part of college football.
Lightning, though, right? Corey, that was lightning delay.
Yeah,
lightning.
I know. All those people that get... I'm not even going to go there.
Oh.
Yes, lightning delays. That's what it is. Even if there's none within eyesight, none within vicinity, the storm is moving in the opposite direction. If it's within 8 miles, get them off the field. And every lightning strike that's 7 miles away, and not a lightning strike, it's not like striking the ground, just lightning in the area, that's another 30 minutes. So anyway, it's in Tallahassee. What are you going to do? We need a dome.
How bad or like how severely was your mind blown as a kid when you found out that lightning was actually mainly ground to cloud as opposed to cloud to ground? That was one of the transcendent days of my life.
I don't think if I knew that at one point in my life, I'd certainly forgotten it.
Yeah, pretty sure. Like that blew my mind. Like pretty much right up there when I found out that we all die. I'm like, what?
Well, yeah.
Mean?
And lightning bugs don't actually have little lightning in them. They're not, that's something else in their bodies that make them. They're not brewing up lightning storms every time they flash.
Okay.
Did you call them lightning bugs or fireflies?
I think we call them lightning bugs.
Oh yeah, we definitely did. I think fireflies might be a northern thing.
Yankees, you weirdos.
Fireflies, get out of here with that. It's
weirdos.
lightning, man.
All right, we spoke to Coach Mike Norvell as well as defensive coordinator Adam Fuller and selected defensive players on Wednesday. That's the last media availability until we go into official game week, which will be Monday. We'll speak to Norvell at noon. We're assuming probably with the coordinators as well. So I guess some of your takeaways maybe. I don't really get a lot from Mike today. Mike was a little bit on On Wednesday, Mike just a little workmanlike out of him. He's growing his beard out, though. I like that. I want to see evil Mike Norvell. I want to see mustache, goatee, beard combo, not messing around. Hell or high water, we're going to start winning football games. I guess before we get to that, nobody asked him about Isaiah Bolden, which happened on Tuesday while we were actually doing the happy hour, or the live call-in show, rather. I found that kind of bit interesting, just the whole fact that, like, he came to me asking me, what can I do to help the team? 2.5 weeks later,
he bounces.
I'm out of here. Otherwise, anything catch your experienced ear while you were live transcribing the comments from Mike Norvell? I think there was a lot of stuff Adam Fuller said, but I don't know if we want to jump right to that one. But we can if you want.
No, I don't. Nothing really caught my ear Norvell wise. They had a good work day. I did like that.
Right?
He says that a lot. Good work day. Got a lot of work in. Little special teams. It was a little shorter practice. And then they did some special teams focus, if you guys can believe that, which I'm not mocking it because they're good at it, apparently really good at it, so that's a plus. And then today they have the day off. And then Friday, I know you're worried about it, but Friday he did say they'd probably start going into Miami. So at least a little bit. So they do get an advantage that they're going on Friday when Miami doesn't start looking at them till Sunday or Monday.
I will say there was some body language, maybe voice tone shift when he did talk about likely having Robert Scott and Thomas Schrader back for the Miami game. Mm-hmm. We'll assume, I don't know, recklessly or not, they probably were in the COVID protocol, as well as Miko Dotson.
Hey, we're allowed to assume whatever when they don't tell us.
Yeah, there we go. That's the spirit.
Well, I mean, look, when they're not on the field at all, like usually an injured player is still on the field. He's still wearing his jersey in sweatpants or something. So they're not on the field at all, and then they're very vague about their answers as to when somebody will return. If you're not going to be transparent with us, which is fine, do whatever you want, but we're going to assume it's COVID. That's just natural. That's how it works. That's life. So, yes, we're assuming that Miko Dotson and the two offensive linemen, and Brownlee too, right?
Yeah. Maybe those guys are roommates. You never know. Maybe those two guys, they're both the same segment. I mean, look at Arkansas State, right? They had to postpone a game because their entire one position unit got ravaged by the virus. So, but he did sort of the way he talked about having them back and kind of lamented not having them. And it kind of goes to the point of, and I think you're doing an admirable thing here, Corey. I'm not patronizing you. You're trying to kind of walk this delicate line of, we know the verdict on James Blackman and who he is, but he's also not getting a lot of favors, right? Guys aren't breaking tackles and maybe extending plays, and guys aren't catching passes. But it sort of puts you in this, this moment where it's like, man, well, if everyone has to play perfect for him to succeed, if all 11 guys need to do their job on every single play for this offense to work, I just don't know if there's any offense in the country outside of your elite programs that have had years and years to get everything in line where that can really be your sort of recipe. But that's a bummer, though, man. Chaz Neal comes into the game and immediately surrenders a sack that becomes a strip sack fumble.
Yeah, it was the game losing play.
Yeah, Brady Scott.
His first play, right?
Yeah, the first and only.
His first and only play essentially loses the team the game.
Yeah.
What are the odds of that? I'm not trying to rip on Chaz Neal, but you have been practicing. You are a college football athlete. You're a lineman. You come into the game. I don't know how often he's played right tackle, but probably more than Brady Scott. You come into the game and immediately, like you would think you would do whatever it takes to not, like, oh man, even if I back up too much, even if he pushes me into the quarterback, I'm not going to let him get by me. I'll grab him.
Even have to hold.
I'll grab him. I'll tackle him from behind. I do not want to lose the game for my team. And he just lets the guy go right by him. Now, again, Blackman doesn't have to fumble the ball, but that sack at midfield changes the game because that's how they got their field goal that ended up being the difference. So, part of that is Florida State luck. Part of that is, I don't know, talent. Part of that is mindset. But it's not next man up, man. It doesn't seem to be. It hasn't been around here for a while. I thought Love Taylor had played pretty well. Not great, not dominant, but pretty well. He gets hurt, and immediately your replacement goes in and gives up a sack. Yeah. That loses the game for the team.
And I think
what are you going to do?
That's kind of what I'm trying to get at is just in terms of like maybe Norvell lamenting things. And again, we'll see what the growth is from week 1 to week 2. Again, I don't think this team looked nearly as hapless as they did in their opener 2 years ago. But yeah, man, if you have Robert Scott out there, like if those two guys aren't sick, we assume, if they're available, maybe that play doesn't happen. Maybe Brady Scott doesn't have to go play right tackle and then false start on a totally manageable 4th and 3, right? I mean, they're 4th and 3, they're on the right side, they're on the plus side of the field. That happens. And again, like these things happen to the previous staff too. We would sit here and talk about if Levante Taylor and Dontavius Jackson know how to fall on a fumbler, how to scoop it up and run it back. All these little sort of things happened previously, and now they're happening again. So people say, hey, keep the same energy. Yeah, we will. We'll see how it keeps evolving over the weeks. But there were so many little opportunities in that game that, kind of they shot themselves in the foot. And you never know. If guys are available in week 2, maybe that helps mitigate a lot of these things.
You feel like, the way that Norvell talks about Schrader and Robert Scott, he almost views them as starters. It seems like I don't think that's lip service or coach speak. I think he genuinely thinks that was a huge loss for his team not to have those two guys. I think they were going to play them both, and so you look at the offensive line moving forward. If those guys are good, and again, we're not expecting Jamie Dukes and Walter Jones, but if those guys are decent college football players, which apparently these coaches seem to think they are, to go along with Maurice Smith, who's a freshman, who they seem to like and who played pretty well before he got hurt. And then Darius Washington, same thing. I thought he played decently before he got hurt. Now these guys, you have four freshmen in your 7-man rotation at the offensive line, and Dante Lucas is a sophomore. So that bodes well, man. If they can figure out, if they can grow together, then maybe they, by the time, and I know nobody wants to look ahead till 2022, but we might have to. If we want to feel good about things, just don't think about them opening with LSU. But look into 2022, it's like, all right, man, you might have an offensive line that has 4 guys with huge amounts of experience that are actually pretty good and have played together for a long time. When is that? That just hasn't happened around here in forever. The last time it did was 13. These guys aren't the 13 team, and it's probably not going to be the 13 offensive line. But that makes you. I think the way they talk about Schrader and Scott, along with the fact that Washington and Smith are starters, makes you feel pretty good about the future of the offensive line. And I know Ira wrote about it yesterday, about just that for the first time in a while, the offensive line wasn't an absolute train wreck. And that's something to build on, right, folks?
Yeah, listen, I think that's almost like diminishing it, that we're seeing like they weren't horrible. I think they were good enough. I think the offensive line, at least when those
they didn't run
guys,
the ball great. I thought they pass protected pretty darn well, but until Chaz Neal got in there. But they didn't run the ball great, and that's the one thing. But that's something you hope grows over time as they get stronger and bigger and better, is that they become more powerful and can provide holes. I didn't see a lot of runs where you're like, oh man, if he just makes that cut right there, they blocked it up perfectly. You know what I mean? But they weren't awful. They didn't have Blackman on his back every other play.
Yeah, we should see. I should probably pull that up, right? See like the allowed pressures, passing direction and pressures. Then see, it always locks it. We have an account.
That's the thing.
Anywho, I don't want to log back, dude. That's bad radio as I sit here and ramble on.
It's all right.
It's
all right. Whatever. People like to hear you do that.
I felt a little bit patronizing. What about Hamsah? I know he was asked about Hamsah. Gene Williams asked Mike Norvell about it. Did he did Gene ask him you hope he's back from Miami? Did he agree with that sentiment? What did you take away from that? What happened?
I couldn't tell. I thought Travis Jay was more to the point about it. Travis Jay was like, yeah, he'll be back soon. Talking about Hamsah, he helps a lot. It sounded like he was talking about him in present tense. So I don't know if he's practicing or not, but I'm sure that's the target date they want him back by is the Miami game for sure. Maybe they're saving him for Jacksonville State, but I assume they want him back for Miami. And we'll see. I guess Monday will be the time we know for sure whether. I think that'll be the best time to know if they really plan on him playing or not. But I thought Travis Jay was more accurate, not more accurate, maybe a little more forthright about Hamsah than Norvell was.
Okay. Moving on to the defense, we did speak to Adam Fuller. I thought his comments were a bit illuminating, as Corey would say. Wasn't good enough, he admitted. My read on it was, I don't know. I just feel he Probably went into things a little bit optimistic, hoping for the best, and I think obviously it did not go according to plan. It wasn't a best-case scenario, and I felt like his body language, the way he was, his responses just kind of felt like maybe not so much it's going to be a long season, but yeah, pretty much all the things I was afraid might happen or were going to be a problem maybe with this defense, apparently, at least for 1 week, were. That's kind of the feeling I got.
Yeah, sure. There wasn't really anything where he's like, yes, we're definitely going to do this. This is the change we're going to make. There wasn't anything like that. But he did say even at halftime when they were shutting them out that they went back in there and were telling the players this isn't good enough because it wasn't. They gave up 270 yards of offense. But yeah, I think he didn't get into specifics about players unless he was asked about them. It sounded like he really liked what Gaynor did, which the numbers bear that out. Not just that he had 10 tackles, but some of the plays he made and the violence that he showed, the aggression he showed with the tackles for loss and the hits in the backfield. And then it sounds like Steven Dix will be playing more. Isn't that who he said was like, that's a guy that's going to be playing more and more football?
Yeah.
I think even though he didn't grade well and made some mistakes because he's a freshman, I think they like what he brings to the position and what he brings to the defense. So I feel like he's going to play a lot. And if you look, I know nobody looks at a season like this, and you certainly don't want to go 0-11, but literally everybody gets their year of eligibility back that's here. Now, some you might be going, okay, we don't want that, like that's a negative. But for most, it's a positive. Like Steven Dix will be a freshman next year too. And if you look at it that way, and the fact that it's a goofy season with no crowds anyway, or 20% crowds, it's kind of like a mulligan in the sense that you can really do some experimenting a little bit and say, okay, let's see what this guy gives us. We got this guy for the next 4 or 5 years maybe. So, I guess the counter to that is, though, you technically could have Emmett Rice next year too and Leonard Warner. So are you looking to get Steven Dix to play in front of them? Is that are you building to the future? Because the future is next year too. That doesn't make sense, but it does. In the sense that usually you're building for the future, like, okay, these guys have to play next year because we lose so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. Well, you don't technically lose anyone if they choose to stay. I just think, now that I've talked myself into this opinion, I think they like Steven Dix much better than the people they have. And so they're going to have him on the field more as the season goes on.
Dix is your backup middle linebacker, so that would probably be dethroning, uprooting Leonard Warner III. Which, I guess there's, maybe not with this staff, but I think there's plenty of tape on Leonard to pretty much know what you're going to get from him. And, I don't know if you're in the mindset of, just youth movement, let's see what we got here. That doesn't strike me as what they would do, but they probably did see enough flash from Steven Dix to give him more opportunity. I guess he said the same thing about Josh Griffiths, right? He's a guy that, played himself into more playing time. That's how it works. So maybe these are two positions. Josh Griffiths backs up Janaris Robinson. Steven Dix backs up Leonard Warren III. Now, both those guys, one's a fifth-year senior, the other one's on his fourth season. And we've seen a lot from them, good, bad, and indifferent, and not a lot of the former. So, God, at least it does maybe show you that they are going to try to exhaust all options that they possibly can. With me, my concern, and this was the whole thing about possibly overvaluing Josh Kando, was just I mentioned, if he plays at his capability, he's the one singular player, yada, 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 that can make the biggest impact. Then there has to be a bit of bittersweet or just sobriety almost washing over them that, they don't have a lot at defensive end. In terms of them trying to pressure quarterbacks, that's just not going to happen. Janaris Robinson, there's no switch that's going to get flipped with him. I don't know if Quayshawn Fuller and Josh Griffiths, as eager and maybe upside as they have, I don't know if this is their time. And I just wonder how much stress that's going to put on this defense overall. That was a comment. That was like the question I was trying to ask Norvell, where, listen, this is what I want to do, Corey. When you go in for your driving test, I also want them to give you some sort of basic common sense test, and then you get a stamp or a wristband you get to carry, so that when people look at you and you ask them a question, they don't give you the absolute most elementary response, like, hey man, my computer's not working. And they're like, hey, well, did you turn it off and turn it on? It's like, yeah, sure, man, I did try that. That's why I'm asking you. I think it was a clumsy sort of way I asked the question. But basically, they get the problem here on defense is I don't think they're going to be able to organically get pressure with 4 guys up front. So are you going to mix up your coverages or are you going to become more aggressive? And I don't know if Adam Fuller knows the answer to that right now, or if he maybe just doesn't want to reveal it.
Well, he definitely wouldn't reveal it. He's not going to be like, yeah, we're going all zone now, and we're going to bring zone pressures and zone blitzes, and I mean, he's not going to tell you that. I think he realized. It's hard though because when you do play somebody like De'Aaron King, if you bring 6 guys, which is fair, number one, he could just throw it up for grabs one-on-one, and your cornerback's got to look better than they did on Saturday in defending that. But also, if De'Aaron King breaks containment, or your guy takes a bad angle because he's coming in too fast and isn't controlled, well, that could be a 40-yard run. So I get the philosophy of sitting back a little bit and not rushing so hard upfield that you open up a lane. I think Sims' biggest run was when Fuller took just went way outside, trying to beat his man to the outside, and it opened up a huge lane. And so I get wanting to hold off on maybe bringing pressure that way, bringing 5 guys where all he has to do is make one guy miss, and there's nobody in the middle of the field to contain him. But I think I'm like you, man. I'm like, I tell Brady, man, when you got 2 strikes, don't choke up and put the thing in play. Swing for the fences. You're actually one of the kids on your team that can hit it over the fence, so swing like it. I'd rather go down swinging, man. The death by 1,000 paper cuts, which has been what this thing has been for 3 years now. I guess I'd rather just get my head chopped off with a battle axe.
What was the stat that somebody dropped in the 18 plays of 10 or more yards Georgia Tech had? 18.
Yeah, I mean that sounds about right, doesn't it? Yeah, just make him get the ball out of the hands quick, and maybe he makes a mistake. Just quit letting them scan the field to their second or third options, and if they're not there, they can still run. That's the bad thing. Is it's not like if you play a soft zone that you were taking the running. He still led the game in rushing. He still had like 70 rushing yards, and he's not the runner that De'Aaron King is. So anyway, I would go down swinging. I think they will. I think he'll start bringing more pressure now that he realizes what they aren't, especially seeing what we'll know. We'll see more about Kando's health. But J-Rob just isn't it as a pass rusher. He can do some things for you. He's a big body. He can move a little bit, help you in a zone, and occasionally he might beat a tackle, but not normally.
Blocked an extra point.
Hey, all those things matter. But he has not made a habit in his college career of beating offensive tackles for sacks.
Yeah,
he's pretty good at setting the edge, and that isn't something you should not consider. But as far as getting pass rush, it's just it's not there. So you got to figure out something, or just do a lot of bend but don't break, bend but block the field goals defense.
There you go. The other thing, the question I asked Adam Fuller, I mean, it's the only thing that really stood out because I asked it. I'm sure everybody else asked really good questions. You can check out the full recap via Corey over on the Tribal Council. But just at practice, did he see a fast, physical defense? And did they play the same pace in practice as he saw in the game? Can you tell if it's like a confusion or like an is it a confusion thing? Is it first game jitters? And that's when I thought like I think he realized as bad as that offense looked, his offense, his counterpart, Kenny Dillingham. Now I do think Adam Fuller had a sense of like it was almost like inexcusable what they let Georgia Tech do. Like they shouldn't have let Georgia Tech score 16 points. Like as bad as the offense played and put him in situations, to me, like it struck to me him kind of realizing that everybody had a hand to play in letting that game get by, but the defense certainly did as well. And I think he mentioned that, for them to play as fast as they want to, he saw there's a couple coaching things that they didn't do in the first game. And I think that's like the regret, right? Like when you go back and you look at the film and you realize, hey, like this is a correctable thing. This is kind of like on the first page of your cheat sheet of what to make sure you know, and then maybe it wasn't conveyed properly. So it's a bit encouraging to know that he's able to kind of realize that. But it's a little too late because you played that game and you lost it. But that was the thing to me too, is just this team did not it was the team speed, like playing fast. I don't know if he thought I was talking about like lining up quickly and being able to stay with Georgia Tech's tempo, although they really didn't play much of it. But just like that sideline to sideline cliche speed, like no one shined. No one blazed down the field and made big plays. And I do wonder if is that a lack of physical ability or is that like a mental lockup? And it seems like at least it's the latter, which is easier to fix than not having the horses. Although I still don't think they have the horses on the defensive line, but maybe the linebackers aren't nearly as slow as we thought.
Yeah, I think I liked what I saw out of Dick. He was running all over the field. He just sometimes wasn't where he needed to be. And I thought Renardo Green at times showed that. But again, I'll bring him up. But yeah, Hamsah's that guy. Hamsah's the guy that runs and flies around everywhere. You really miss him, and he's not out there. Travis Jay, was a kid playing his first ever game in college. Jaden Lars-Woodby didn't really do anything of note that I saw. Wasn't terrible, but again, wasn't an impact player. Yeah, it just wasn't a swarm. It wasn't a Garnet swarm as you would have liked to see. But first game, maybe it was first game jitters, Aslan. Maybe it was first game jitters. I do think that they'll grow and get better. Maybe that won't be shown in the next game because they're playing a better team. But I do think they're going to grow and get better, and they're going to figure out a way to affect the quarterback where he's not becoming now. What their goal should be is not every week should they have somebody be the ACC Player of the Week against them.
Was he? Was Sims?
Well, he was the ACC Rookie of the Week. Yeah. You don't want Derek King to be ACC Player of the Week. You already assume Trevor Lawrence will probably be ACC Player of the Week when you play. That's what your goal is. Don't let the quarterback you play every week be winning an award 2 days later.
We're going to be the homecoming opponent, is what you're saying.
Yeah, for all these guys to get their Player of the Week awards, you hope that doesn't become a common occurrence.
All right. Otherwise, who do we spoke? We spoke to Travis Jay and Amari Gaynor. Amari made extraordinary plays. Like I said, you mentioned that kind of at the beginning of the show. I do wonder if he's a guy that if they can do some, unleash him. If there's some stuff that he can help conceal, that now they know they can. Because if we're talking about guys playing fast, rushing the passer, Amari feels like he's that guy that you could put in the box and do that. I guess maybe you think Hamsah's that guy, but Amari's healthy and ready to go. I sure would hope that maybe he's a guy that maybe spies Derek King to a certain degree, or maybe they find other ways to get him off the edge, or at least get him to attack the pass rusher. I just want a pass rush, Corey. That's all I want. 25 minutes of the show, I just want a pass rush, man. That's all I want.
You don't want to have 11 sacks at the end of the year, which is what they're on pace for. You just got to affect quarterbacks more than that. You got to figure out a way to do it.
And then I'm able to actually segue back to offense real quick. So 52 dropbacks for James Blackman. He was under pressure on 24 of them.
Yeah, but how many? What about Sims? Because those numbers I'm not sure I trust. Because the numbers for Sims, I don't know if every time James Blackman rolled to the right when he shouldn't have.
Sims was 41 dropbacks under pressure, 16.
I don't even remember 16. I guess maybe that's true. I don't feel like because he got rid of the ball so quick. I just don't feel like every 2.5 plays he felt he was getting pressure where he maybe not in my definition of pressure. I did not feel like James Blackman was running for his life a lot of that time, except when he did it to himself.
The crazy thing is he actually graded out much higher when he was under pressure than he did when there was no pressure.
Yeah, but that I think also, sometimes it's our eyes, right? How many – he threw 20 balls within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. So how much pressure was he feeling on those stops to Tamari and Terry? Just get the ball to your hand. Did that count when he backs up to get pressure from a screen pass? Does that count as being under pressure when it's designed to look like that? Yeah. I don't feel like he was under half the times he dropped back, he was about to get hit. Unless it was 5 seconds after the snap. So that's I thought, and we watched it. I thought the offensive line held up okay. We'll see again what happens. Miami and Notre Dame are going to be huge tests. But hey, you know what? You might as well see what you got.
Look at that. That's the kind of encouragement I like, Corey. Let's see what you got.
Well, let put Schrader and Brown and Scott, right? Oh yeah, I keep wanting to call him Robert Brown. Who is Robert Brown? I don't think I've ever met or heard of a Robert Brown.
Bobby Brown? You think about Bobby Brown?
Yeah, that's probably what it is. That's probably what it is. I have a buddy, actually. I'll tell the story. I don't care. He's a dentist. And he was a dentist. He's a dentist in Athens now, but he used to be a dentist in Gwinnett County. And I think Bobby Brown, and this was like 2005. So put yourself in New Edition had been out for 20 years. Okay. And Bobby Brown was still married to Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston was still alive. Anyway, Bobby Brown comes into he's having a dentist emergency. And my buddy worked sort of close to Atlanta. So they came out there. Him and his people came out. I almost said his name. My buddy was working on him. And as he's working on him, he's like, remember, this is 2005. He's like, so how old are you? And Bobby Brown said something like 33. And he's like, oh, okay, so when you were doing My Prerogative, you were 14 years old? You were 12 years old when you're doing My Prerogative? When I was dancing around to you in my basement, I was older than you are? And then he came clean with his real age, but I thought that was funny. And the doctor friend I know does not have a filter, so he would certainly say something like that. Good old Bobby Brown. But anyway, back to the point of the matter. You're going to play Miami and Notre Dame coming up 2 of your next 3 games. Likely your offense isn't going to perform all that well against them. But I do think, unlike quarterbacking, I think offensive, where you could be ruined by just getting shelled and pummeled, I think there is a learning curve and a growth process that can handle and be good for players to be thrown in the fire like that. And what I remember more than anything, my best example for this is that Champs Bowl against Notre Dame in 11, where Jimbo and Trickett just said, you know what, we're playing all the freshmen. Our offensive line is a train wreck anyway, which it had been. It was just mutilated by injury at the end of that year, if you remember the Virginia game. And then they beat Florida with 70 yards of total offense. And then they go to the Champs Bowl and say, you know what, we're starting all the freshmen. And they did. And for the first half, they were obliterated because that was a good Notre Dame defense. That was the Notre Dame team that next year played for the national championship.
That's right.
They had pros all over that defense, including Manti Te'o, who I think had just met his girlfriend before that game.
That's when he's hitting his stride, trying to impress her.
Right. Watch me in Orlando. I'm going to put on a show. All right, sweetie. And then and they were terrible. I don't think they scored in the first half. They were shut out. They had maybe 100 yards of offense. But they got a little more confidence when they played against those guys. And like, you know what? We can play with these guys. They didn't pick us up and slam us down like wrestlers. And then in the second half, they played a little bit better. And then in 2012, they became a pretty darn good offense and offensive line. So that's what. Just throw him to the fire, man. I'm not trying to hate on the kid. I just don't need to see Brady Scott try to block Miami anymore. I've seen it.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't, he's valuable as a fill-in guy when somebody gets hurt. But otherwise, play the young guys as much as possible and get them some valuable reps so this thing can be something worth watching in a year or two.
I'm well said. I'm not down on the offensive line. We knew it was going to be a point of concern going to the season. They held up, I thought, good enough. Game one,
yeah, that's
5 different combinations.
They
put these guys in there. And to your point, the way that Mike Norvell talked about Robert Scott and Thomas Schrader as if they were starters, I think is almost kind of in the ilk of Leonard and his whole 18-strong thing where it's like, yeah, we don't really have a starting 5. I mean, I think with that offensive line where they're at now and even where they want to be, like they're going to roll guys in. And those are the 2 guys they wanted to go to, and they didn't have them available. And then when they weren't there to step up, be the next man up, things went awry. So I'm not gonna sit here and torpedo the coaching staff over it.
Yeah, I think the offensive line. I mean, I'm just, again, folks, go back into our YouTube channel and watch the Atkins interview. He just always says stuff that I've never heard offensive. I guess I don't get to talk to offensive line coaches much in the last dozen years, but he just says stuff that to me is just so interesting. And go back and just listen to him talk. Just the way he talks is again, like you say, I say all the time, but illuminating, enlightening. And I love listening to that guy talk and explain the position to us. And I think they like these young guys. I think they know that the older guys aren't all that good, and so obviously that's why they're not playing some of them. So they're ride with the younger guys, throw them into the fire, get them some experience, and see what happens at the end of this year and into next year. But enough about all that, Aslan. Nobody wants to hear the tales of the offensive line for the next 2 years. Shout out to the Big Ten for defying all the medical personnel and going with it and joining the ranks of the unsullied down here in the South, who obviously don't care about people, students' health and football players' health. I loved how the talking point now was that they got new medical data. Which, fine, maybe they did. And that's the game changer, is that they can test every day. No, the game changer is other conferences are playing. They thought, probably fairly, as soon as they announced we're not playing, that in 48 hours, college football would have been shut down until February. But when the SEC and the ACC didn't follow suit and the Big 12 didn't follow suit, then they were caught looking like fools. Like, wait, what are y'all doing? It's too. And so that's when you started seeing the stories of these studies that were being done at Penn State and Ohio State of the heart condition and how dangerous it was. Well, now all of a sudden that's not true because the Big Ten is going to play. So I just thought that was funny. Thought that was humorous. And I more than anything, I just thought it was humorous that they obviously thought that the rest of college football was going to follow them. They went out but they ended up going out on a limb, and the limb broke.
How about the Walter Cronkite of our generation, Christine Brennan, talking about being at the darkest day in the history of the Big Ten? That was rich.
I guess I don't understand the people of that ilk, and I'm not taking a shot at Christine. Well, I am.
I did. I just did. I'll do it.
But there are other ones out there that we don't need to mention that never seem to actually write about sports and what they love about sports. It's always something that they don't like about sports, and it's always an attack on the people involved in sports when they're sports writers. I'm sure Christine Brennan's written a lot of great columns about, like, I don't know, Paul Pierce or a game she covered or something, but all we ever see is this kind of stuff and how irresponsible people are over and over and over again. It just seems like it must be so exhausting. It doesn't mean you shouldn't write that stuff occasionally, but all the time. And anybody listening to this that's on Twitter knows exactly who I'm talking about when it comes to certain sports media members. And I'm not one of those people that think that this thing is a hoax. I've said that thousands of times. You guys know where I stand on it. It is real. It is scary. But if you're going to open colleges, if you're going to have colleges open, then yes, you can also, at that point, you can play football too. And that's what, it just makes no sense that Christine Brennan wasn't writing that story a week ago when all those Michigan grad students went on strike because they didn't feel safe even having to return to school. But that wasn't a plight on the Big Ten. It was the football aspect of it, which they will be tested every day. So they are literally, with no sense of hyperbole here, they are going to be the most safe. They're going to be the safest, most tested kids on campus are the football players. Is that fair? That's up to you to decide. They do make a lot of money for the school, but I get it. I get where you might be like, well, what about the professors and the other students? I get all that. But they are going to be tested more than anybody else. And yet that's the line that's drawn. Not, why are these dorms open? Why are these bars open? It's college football having the audacity to want to play a season.
40 seconds on the shot clock. You want to talk a little basketball? We spoke to Leonard Hamilton on Wednesday.
Gotta love Leonard. Gotta love Leonard. Do we have that on our site, by the way?
It's on our YouTube page. I left it unlisted. It was 41 minutes.
It was long. Yeah. It was a long one. It was pretty interesting stuff.
Shout out to him though, taking a phone call in the middle of the Zoom.
That was the funniest part. He literally, I don't know really how to set it up other than he was in the middle of the answer. And he's done this to me many times because, man, basketball coaches are always working, and that dude is always recruiting or talking to someone about a former player and trying to get him a job somewhere. So he's in the middle of an answer and his phone rings. And usually somebody would like silence it or be like, I'll call them back later. He literally stops his answer, and he stops the answer he's giving to the reporter on the Zoom call, and it picks up his phone and says, hello? And then maybe a second goes by, second and a half.
Yeah, 3 seconds about.
And then he just looks at his phone and turns it off and puts it down on the desk. Doesn't say, talk to you later. Doesn't say bye. just literally he hears what he hears on his end, and then just hits the end button, and then says, "That's a 5'11" guy. That's a 5'11" guy. Don't talk to 5'11 guys." That was and which is true because it's Leonard. It's Leonard Hamilton. He does not recruit guys that are under 6'4". That's not his MO. And for all we know, it was a wrong number or it was a spam call, but it was a really funny line that he says, "Don't ever talk to 5'11 guys."
I bet you it was like a robocall, probably like.
Or it could have been a kid from who knows, Vidalia, Georgia. Oh. Like, "Coach, I'm a 5'10" guard. I got your number." Click.
Hey, kid, you get my tape, Coach? You get my tape on that
Click.
On the point guard. Yeah, nah, you're good. 5'11".
If you're not, if you're a 5'10" point guard, we don't want you, buddy. Unless you're Allen Iverson.
There we go. All right, we're done. We'll be back tomorrow as well as Friday. We're going to do 5 days a week, I think. Maybe. Actually, I don't know. Anyhow, we will do Renegade Express. Post your questions over on the Tribal Council, warchant.com, and we'll get back with you all tomorrow. He's Corey Maslon. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.